Hey everybody. It's been a little while since we've seen each other in person, hasn't it? I wanted to make this recording as like the first of maybe many about my wall ball process this year. So to start things off, I got my pencil sketch done, but before I could put down my pencil sketch, this year, well actually the last few years, I've been using watercolor ground to make watercolor paintings on canvas or wood panel. And I bought a lot of different grounds, which for those of you who don't know what watercolor ground is, it's like you took watercolor paper and put it in a blender with a bunch of like binders so that you can basically paint or spread this product on canvas or wood panel or anything and be able to make a watercolor painting on any substance or any substrate. And so I bought Daniel Smith products, and I also bought Core products. So Daniel Smith, here, I'll show you, where did it go? Here. Daniel Smith, it comes in black and white and this lovely beige color. And they make different products. One is like more, let's see, there's one called like cold press, watercolor ground, different textures. And then the Core company, which is my personal favorite, Core watercolor ground, they make one called light dimensional ground, which is like kind of has a spongy, kind of absorbent texture. And then they make another one that's just called watercolor ground, and it's very runny like glue and makes your surface very, very smooth. My personal favorite is the cold press ground. Whenever it dries, it's very, very textured and hard, and it gives you the tooth of a watercolor paper, like a very rough watercolor paper. So I wanted to show you my little swatch board of experimentation, and then yes, also the pencil sketch for my wall ball painting. So here we go. So this is my experimentation canvas. It's 3 feet, and I covered it in all of the different products made by Core and Daniel Smith. Daniel Smith makes this, they call transparent watercolor ground, and it's very runny like glue, and it really, as you can see, had issues with feathering and saturation of the paints. It made all the colors very faded, like the ground had an issue absorbing the color and holding the color. Also the Daniel Smith just white, also, as you can see, like I would put down just like a paintbrush and there was some feathering. I am not a fan of feathering. Then this other product is Core watercolor ground. It's also very runny like glue, and whenever I would put the paint on it, it's like it was kind of made of plastic. Like the watercolor would not absorb into the paint. It would more like run around on top of it. It was resistant a little bit to the paint. And then this is, I played around a lot with them. This is the Core light dimensional ground. It is very spongy in texture. No issues with feathering. The lines stayed nice and crisp. But also the colors it made the colors rather faded. If any of you are familiar with my work, I like my paintings to be very saturated. I want dark and bright, and I want the color on the paintbrush to be how it goes on the canvas or the watercolor paper. So my favorite product out of all of these is yes, this Core cold press ground. It has a great tooth, it has a great texture, like I said, and there's no issues with feathering. So the first step of my paintings is I put down the pencil sketch, and then I put down ink sketch. And so this rectangle represents cold press ground. And I start by putting down, usually I use Black Magic or Liquitex waterproof ink, or P.H. Martin's waterproof ink, India ink. And so I made a board of experimentation. All 4 of these products, so this is Blick's India ink, P.H. Martin's, Higgins Black Magic, and Liquitex ink. All 4 of these products claim to be waterproof India ink. But whenever you put them on this cold press ground, as you can see, not all of them are actually waterproof when you try to paint on top of them. The one from Blick isn't quite so bad. It definitely, you know, whenever you try to paint on top of it, you can see this gray around it. That's where the water, the ink didn't actually stay. It kind of diluted. But the PH Martins, practically perfect. Barely any of the ink, like, you know, came off and spread to its surroundings. The Higgins Black Magic on this cold press ground by Core, horrible, absolute worst. Look at, I mean, that's terrible. When I added the water on top of it, it just turned almost like a dark gray. And then the Liquitex ink did really, really well. It's my personal favorite, I think. I think it's what I'll be using. And then this is Molotow, which these are both acrylic markers, and the reason I tested these was because sometimes I use acrylic markers on, like, for just like fine line detail touch-ups on, like, you know, whenever I need something to be like black on, like, you know, a line of black. So for some reason, not all water-resistant, waterproof India inks are compatible with cold press grounds. So I'm going to be using, I think, the Doc Martens, because it's like the blackest black, and then I can make these diluted water, like, you know, to make them lighter and get my gradients of tone. So yeah, this has been a lot of experimentation. I hope I've made sense. I hope that this has been educational. So the last thing I wanted to show before we wrap this up is the pencil sketch. So it measures 30 by 40 inches, and it's going to be of a bunch of tools, hammers and screwdrivers and saw and wrenches, and so it's time to get started. Today I'm starting my ink wash and adding all the shadows and detail, and then I'll come back in and start adding color. So thanks if you actually watched this whole thing, and stay tuned. Yeah, I will talk to you all soon. Thanks.